Hello, and we are live. Hello, everybody. Um, this is the OLA Education Department live discussion. Today, we're going to be talking about the new OLA article that discusses OLA's progress and perspectives over the next few years in education. So, without further ado, let's introduce myself and our guest. Um, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, everyone. My name is Hamdia Adam. I am from Atlanta, Georgia, and I work in a healthcare company, one of the Fortune 500 healthcare companies, as in the sales department. And I've been a part of OLA for a few years now. And I guess we'll get into some of that reason, my background in OLA, in a little bit later.
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Tufa. I am a high school student. I've been volunteering at OLA ever since January of this past year. Um, I've been volunteering as a teacher assistant and doing various other tasks, so that's where kind of my experience lies at. So let's introduce what we're going to be talking about today. So, OLA's Education Progress and Prospective Report is what we're going to be talking about. So, one of the big questions that this article talks about is why has Ola begun education and what is the significance of education for the Oromo diaspora? And this article answers this question through showing the development, the progress, and the addition of its classes in education, which includes Afaan Oromoo classes, Gadaa system classes, advocacy training, and others. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So first, let's start with Afaan Oromoo classes. So Hamdia, why do you think it's important to study Afaan Oromo for Oromo people as well as non-Oromo people?
I think that it is important for Oromos to learn their language, obviously, because your background, your origin is from Oromia. You want to know your native tongue. When you are in the diaspora, you tend to learn the native tongue of that country in the diaspora, and your Oromo language becomes a back burner or a language that you tend to forget over time because of pressures of trying to learn most likely English in schools and that kind of thing. For non Oromos, it's important for them to understand the Oromo language so that they can understand the struggles that the Oromo people, indigenous people of the country Ethiopia, Oromia, and for them to understand what we go through, they have to understand our language. And I think we take our time to understand their language, and I think it should be reciprocated. So this article goes into the fact that there are both non-Oromos and Oromos participating in our Afaan Oromo class. Do you want me to go into that really
Yeah,
quick?
yeah, definitely.
So the Afaan Oromo class started in back in October 2020, and it was actually just a basic Afaan Oromo class where we learned the kube and the basics of some conversational phrases and greetings and that kind of thing. And we had about 85 students participate from different countries, from countries in Asia, in Australia, Europe. I've actually known someone in this past course that was from Switzerland or maybe Netherlands. But yes, Europe, Canada, and of course, the bulk is definitely in the USA.
Mhm.
We expanded the class to include children, so kids age 5 to 14, and we had around 43 children between those age groups that participated. Majority were girls, about a little over 25 girls and a little over 15 boys participated. And then in moving on to our adult class, we had this past year, September of last year to December of last year, 12-week course. 41 students were taught by Mr. Samuel Komicha. So we had a very successful classes, a Afaan Oromo class. We've expanded it to include a part two, So there's Afaan Oromoo class level 1, which goes into the basics of Kobe, like I said, but then level 2 goes into some of the grammar, sentence building, and more learning how to write in paragraph formats and speaking it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So to summarize, currently Ola has an adult class, so level one and level two, that's separate, that they offer. And there's also the kids classes, which is also level one and level two, as you mentioned. What has your experience been personally with the Afaan Oromoo classes Ola provides?
My personal experience, I love the interactions. I've actually TA'd for the Afaan Oromoo Kids Level 1 class, and I assisted the professor leading that course. And it was wonderful to see how he was very mindful and kid friendly, and the kids were very involved learning the Afaan Oromoo Kube. And it was just beautiful to see that. So then I also took myself to take the class myself, the adult level classes. I'm not confident speaking it. I'm a little shy, but I do understand it very well. I can hear very well. I just need to learn how to transcribe what I say in English to Afaan Oromo. But I plan to take the level 2 class again so that I can better my conjugation. I think I can read but not understand what I'm saying yet. So, but I love the course. I think that it's broken down very well week to week, the concepts that are covered.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, great insight. I personally also have had some experience with Afaan Oromoo classes in Ola. I've TA'd for, I think, two Afaan Oromoo classes so far. My first volunteer experience for Ola was actually TAing for an Afaan Oromoo adult level one, level two class. Sorry, yeah. And so my experience there was amazing. You know, all the students were so motivated to learn, and our teacher Barsisa Samuel, um, I mean, he's amazing. So, uh, and he provides learning in such a way that's extremely interesting. And at the beginning of lots of classes, there would be a suggested Afaan Oromo song that would be played while people roll in before attendance is taken. And the class experience is extremely amazing. Um, and I definitely enjoyed seeing students learn. And I personally, even though I can speak Afaan Oromo pretty decently, reading and writing is somewhat of an issue for me. So I personally was learning along with the students, and I'm always learning whenever I'm TAing for a class. Even when I TA'd for one of the kids' classes, I was still learning.
Me too. That's what encouraged me to take the adult class.
Hmm. Yeah. So Um, moving on from the Afaan Oromo class, Ola has also provided uh, a Gadaa system class. So the first Gadaa system class began back in October of 2020 and ran through November. Most of the students were male, around 75% of the students were male, and um, 25 being female. So you can see there's a kind of gender disparity there. And also, most of the students, about 55% of the students, actually came from the US, um, and only a few other places where students came from, such as Canada, Europe, Australia, Asia, and even also Ethiopia. But most of the students, like a hefty amount of the students, came from the US. So I was actually one of the students who was in that class before I ever had any volunteer experience with Ola. The Geda system class was extremely intriguing for me to see something like that available. It was the first time I ever saw anything like that. So I jumped on the opportunity to sign up, and I definitely did not regret it. I'm from Canada, so I was part of the 8% of students who were from Canada. I had a great experience. The class, as said, ran over about 2 months. Classes were held on weekends. Uh, and yeah, so I definitely took a lot from learning about the Gadaa system, and it was not exactly in depth. It was rather more of an introduction and clarification around the system, and also tying in with the Oromo culture. And that was extremely enlightening for me, as sometimes you get lost when you're reading books about, the Gada system, and when you're trying to connect back to your roots in that way. Um, the Gada system is definitely something extremely important to learn for both Oromos and non-Oromos. For Oromos, learning about the Gada system is learning, one, about your heritage, two, about an egalitarian system that your ancestors created and sustained for hundreds, or not, if not thousands of years. Um, and so, yeah, for Oromos, it's definitely a must to learn, and especially for diaspora, it's extremely important for regaining their identity as an Oromo. And then also for non-Oromos, it's definitely important to learn about the Gada system if you're somebody who's maybe interested in political systems, learning about politics, and seeing how uh, the Gada system worked as a democratic republic, and the way it functioned for so long, and how efficiently it functioned for so long. And it's interesting to see indigenous systems, people who are also interested in anthropology or sociology, and social sciences of that nature. Just anybody who's really interested in analyzing indigenous systems. The Gada system is definitely something to learn. Yeah. Do you have any comments about the Gada system?
It's definitely a class that I was interested in taking. So I'll have to look at some on Ola's website to see when the next time they're going to host it.
Yeah. So I've actually also TA'd for a Gada system class
Mm.
um, this year, back I think in April, I believe it was. Another Gada system class was going on, and I TA'd for that class. So I got the benefit of being a student again, but with the benefit of interacting with the teacher a little bit more also. So that's also a call for teacher assistants for Ola. Um, so yeah, let's move on to advocacy training. So, uh, Hamdia, I'd like to ask you, what's your experience in advocacy for Ola, and have you taken any advocacy training classes?
I have not taken any advocacy training classes at Ola yet, but I did participate in some of the beginnings work with Sana to develop some of the language for Congress. I did help with that language, and I assisted with pulling together the community in Atlanta, along with some other members in Atlanta, to kind of gather them along to kind of fight for our cause and protest. And for me, I also think advocacy is not just being loud, but also being vocal with your friends. So I shared you know, thought things that were going on with my friends, and so that's what I think advocacy is. However, I do want to know more about advocacy training. I think it's important, especially when you don't know, you want to help, but you don't know how to help. Fundraising is important, but you don't know where to fundraise, how to fundraise, who should you donate to. And I think having that appropriate training would be helpful.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely, 100%. I personally have also had experience with advocacy, not in the class of advocacy training, but I have volunteered for the advocacy department, and um, my role was to interview refugees in Yemen and write their stories to be published on the OLA website, and also to be sent to the UN. And so my experience with advocacy was extremely enlightening in terms of understanding why people, why people leave their homeland and go to different places around the world and take treacherous journeys, and also what happens once they reach a destination they believe is supposed to be their promised land almost. And so that was extremely helpful for me as a person to look at the Oromo diaspora and to see how our community was created. And so um, also, uh, I'd like to mention the stats for the advocacy training class that happened, that ran from October to November in 2020. So about 35% of the students were male, and the top three countries of origin for the participants was the United States, which is about 37%, Canada 4%, and Europe 3%. So you can see again the U.S. is lots of students coming from the U.S. Um, and so yeah, so that's how the advocacy training class went. And really, we want to encourage people from other continents or countries like Canada, Europe, Australia, Asia, and Ethiopia. Also, students from there. We're really encouraging you guys to join. Um, it's not fair for only the U.S. students to get the U.S. Oromo diaspora to get the benefit of taking OLA courses. Um, and so, yeah. So with that, uh, Hamdi and I want to call on you, the Oromo diaspora, to learn Afaan Oromoo, to learn the Gadaa system, and to learn how to advocate for your people who hold their ancestral knowledge of the Gadaa system and who speak the language of Afaan Oromoo. And so, yeah, Hamdia, what would you advise our diaspora? Why would you advise them to learn Afaan Oromoo, Gadaa advocacy, and why do you think they should join OLA courses specifically instead of learning independently?
Oh, I think that learning with the OLA class and joining the OLA class is really important. My favorite thing is being able to interact with all of the other students from various countries and places. We can network and share ideas. And you can continue to talk with them after the program is done. And I've established some friendships through OLA. So I think it's very important, even if you go into the classes and you're learning, you're also establishing new friendships, and from that are Oromos and non-Oromos that are there for their own reasons, but you guys are coming together to learn, Afaan Oromoo, our beautiful culture, and being able to advocate for yourselves. So I think it's a beautiful culture. The art classes and art, starting to stumble here. I'm trying to put my thoughts together, but I just think that Oromo is very beautiful and rich, culture and language, and I think it's important, as an Oromo to learn it and to be fluent in the language. So I encourage everyone to join, and to make new friends, and make new Oromo friends, non-Oromo friends who are there to do the same thing, learn the language and culture.
Yeah, it's definitely a captivating experience to not be alone in learning your language and culture. I definitely know that feeling of trying to understand or trying to learn how to write in a final role without having a teacher. That's definitely not the easiest thing to do. And even with a teacher, if it's just one on one, you don't get that feeling of being in a class, and you don't get the feeling of being with other people like you in your position, uh, especially if you're, for example, a person who was born here in the West, and you see another student who is also born in the West, and you have very similar upbringings. It definitely, you know, it feels like you're in the right place. You're doing the right thing. And it's also encouraging to continue learning because other people are learning, and they're encouraging you to learn, you're encouraging them. Whereas if you're learning on your own, uh, it's much more easier to put things aside and to say, well, I can do this later. Well, I mean, this can wait. I can read this book later or whatnot. And so it's the class experience is extremely valuable. It's not something you can really replace.
No, not at
Yeah.
all. And the fact that it's virtual makes it flexible to fit into your schedule. I noticed that people have joined on their cell phones and would be on their car ride to get to somewhere else and would still be participating in the class to some extent. So it shows a lot of dedication that people have in learning the language.
Yeah, definitely. So we have a couple announcements for you guys. First is that we have a few classes still available for registration. The Afaan Oromoo Adult Level 1 class, set to start on October 8th, is still available for registration. And also the Afaan Oromoo Kids Level 1 class, which will start mid-October, is also available for registration. Please register. And then also on top of that, the Gadaa system intro class coming soon is also available for early registration. And then there's a new update on teachers or instructors for Afaan Oromoo classes. We have two new instructors, Hawine Alamayo Kube and Gamachis Malkamugasa. In the past couple weeks, they became new instructors for uh, Ola Afaan Oromoo classes. And so, yeah, those are the announcements that we have for you guys in addition to talking about the article today. Uh, Hamdia, do you have anything else to say?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess then that's our discussion for today. Thank you all for watching and listening. See you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.